Hey there students, this video is going to be a progression on the character turnaround assignment. For my students in class, part of the turnaround is to create a line drawing that shows a front, back, and a side view, and also some sort of posture or pose that shows the personality of this figure. The turnaround is supposed to be very static, very doll-like, strictly to function as a blueprint. This image right here is just a placeholder. I don't really like the pose. It's just as stiff as these other ones. So I'm going to take a line drawing all the way up to render, and we're going to render out the line art, and let's kind of take a look at this process at the beginner level. There are many ways that you can come up with a pose. I decided just to start with silhouettes first, and then I'm going to go and extract the line art from that silhouette. And I really like this one. It kind of showed like some dynamic, and overall I just kind of like this one better. So I blew it up really large. Also to aid me, I just took some screen caps of my turnaround from the front and the side to help me redraw this. And that kind of models the way this whole process helps anyway. I mean, I totally forgot how these different intricate pieces come together, and it's really going to be helpful for me to know that when I go to draw. I'm just going to use a chalk brush. Gives it a nice rough texture. Make sure that you're zoomed out so you can see the entirety of the form. And you can see that my brush size is nice and small and skinny. I do have it set to pressure sensitivity so that we can have some line weight added as we work. Keep it small. That gives you room for all the detail work, because if you're going to zoom in and paint and you have big fat chunky lines, it's really not going to help you that much. It's going to work against you. Let's take the figure apart here. You're going to see that this figure, his pauldrons have multiple layers to it, yet my drawing is just one. Those will eventually become those multiple layers once we go to the design pass. Right now, I'm just concerned about the basic shapes and the angles of things. Let's talk about angles for a minute. If we look at his head angle, it's kind of at a slant, right? And he's looking up. I'm using what are called contrasting angles. That means different angles. If we look at his shoulders are following this kind of a slant. If we look at his pelvis is following this kind of a slant. So we see these contrasting angles. That's creating a compression point here near the back of the hips and the torso area. And then over here, it's creating this stretch. So we have this accordion fold happening with the torso. That creates action and movement for our eyes. It's creating this curve, this line of action going from the head down to the feet. Avoid static, straight forms. Rather, contrast those angles like we have here. And you can learn that in any basic figure drawing class. Other things to consider, it's at a 3/4 angle, so his shoulder is facing us and his other shoulder is pushed back behind his torso. That's giving us a sense of progression of depth, things steadily coming closer and closer to us. Almost as if, like say you're looking down a tunnel and things are getting closer and closer to you. And I really want to have this halberd like coming directly out and in our face, like in perspective. So I'm really going to exaggerate that in the drawing. And having these things in place first before you commit to your design pass, before you commit to your rendering, really helps you have a solid foundation before continuing. Well, I'm going to use the one generational method. I'm going to work on one layer, and the reason for that is time. It takes more time to go through multiple generations like this. The second is energy. The one generational method, if I'm working off of one drawing and making corrections as I go to add more detail, it retains a lot of this energy that's present in here. So I want to try to preserve the fluid action of this pose, mainly because there's so many different folds and curves with the fabric. I really want to kind of rock that. So the way this works is you get your tool, all right, your drawing tool, and you have your finger on the eraser button, E for eraser, and then finger on B for brush. And I'll go in and erase a portion of the drawing and refine, erase, and refine, erase, and refine. Here is going to be his cape. So I might go in and erase some parts of this and start to clean up the line art. See, it's a very fluid, very quick process. And see how it's retaining some of those original lines from that base sketch that we have here. If there's a line you don't like let's say I just messed this one up, just undo, and then go back in and commit. I'm making strong use of the keyboard shortcuts here to make this happen.
And so that was just a rundown on the one generational drawing method. You see it's very raw, very loose. You could continue to spend more time and tighten it up and get it really clean, but ultimately my purpose is to have enough information to help me in the render, because this line art is going to go away fully. I'm not committed to this line art. I'm not considering it to be anything precious or of value. That's going to be the painting that I eventually finish. The purpose of the line art is just to solve problems. And the good thing about raw and rough work is that you can take all these leftover junk lines and in your mind's eye or your imagination, you can maybe see some interesting things that you didn't have planned out before and incorporate them into the work. So I hope you guys found this helpful. I look forward to seeing you all in class, And we'll make this a part 2 where next video we'll render this out. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.